Okay, welcome to our positivity bias class. This is our last class on this series, and we're going to cover towards the end, the last pieces, part 2 and 3, which is the v'chein, and I think that's the bottom line is that we say that ma'aseh hu ha'ikar, the action is the main thing, and if we're just talking, it's devar b'telim, it's wasted words. The real intention is that we do something with this information. We make some changes and things, and that's what this is about. So some of the things that we actually think about of, how can you proactively bring on this positivity bias? And it's like, so many other things in business and life coaching, it's actually making a series of commitments that you're going to do and then following through with them. Sometimes even creating a battle buddy or a system where you have a wingman to be held hold each other responsible to, and things like that. And all of those are productive ways to help make sure that you're actually going to be implementing the things that we've talked about and the things you want to do. So number one on this list was, of course, was choosing your news, because obviously media is all sensationally focused. Media is all about, how to sell papers, or the equivalent thereof in today's generation. And therefore, it's not about reality, it's not about truth, but it's about sensationalism. And typically that's the focus on negative things. So we have to make a conscientious choice to limit those, and then focus on positive things. There was the New York Times reporter, Ari Goldman, whom the Rebbe had encouraged him to remember to report good news, right? Report good news. And so he focused on that more continuously afterwards. But again, it becomes a conscientious decision. Myself, I really don't follow much media at all. I typically find that whatever I need to hear, I find out in shul. Whatever I really need to know, it's gossip in shul. I don't need to follow news on channels or anything. Sometimes I get the news late, but it's never anything that would have made a difference in something I could have done something about. So that's the bottom line, is making a conscientious decision to limit or refrain from the media that's only going to be giving you negative news, right?
Sunday night they give good news on Channel 5, the national news, for about the last story.
The last story,
It's a rarity. It's a rarity.
And I've seen it in different channels, where there's the the favorable reports about things going on in the country and things like that, and those are good things. Again, it's not even 10% of the presentation, but it's good to hear those things as well, and to focus on those when we can. And then the second one is, we talk about sur me'rava aseh tov, to turn from evil and do good, right? So we're talking about, limiting the media that's negative and choosing to hear only positive, deleting cynicism. Cynicism has become so pervasive that it's deplorable. It's really sad, and no wonder people are growing up, so much more cynical. We have to change that. We have to actively do things that embrace optimism, and not vain optimism, but a conscientious optimism, a thought-provoking optimism, educated ideas of where we could be focused. So many times you hear about, food shortages, and there's not a shortage of food on the planet. No. It's a distribution problem. It is totally a distribution problem.
Yep.
So again, we can do something about that. I was following something earlier this year, and there was a project to put up 100 freshwater wells in Africa. And it was done by social media people on YouTube, who are focusing on doing good things, and collected money to do it. And they went up and they literally put up 100 freshwater wells in Africa. Obviously, it doesn't change the crisis, but
For everyone, but for someone.
it makes a difference. It's like that old story about the little boy who was walking along the seashore and picking up sand starfish and throwing them out into the water. The ones that were drying up on the beach. And some old guy was walking behind and said, "Hey kid, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm throwing the starfish in, so they'll survive the heat." And he said, "There's thousands of starfish on the beach. What difference does it make?"
Yeah.
He looked at the one in his hand and threw it in the water and said, "Makes a difference for this one."
Yeah, for sure.
Saving people one person at a time, right? Caring about people one person at a time. The Air Force chaplain's motto currently is to care for our people more than can be imagined. Making that difference. So replacing the cynicism with educated optimism and choosing to focus on positive things, choosing to look at those things. And the same thing with when we share news, right? How was your day? Well, I could tell you what my day was like today, right? Multiple trips to the Department of Motor Vehicles, trip downtown to the courthouse for some legal stuff, and I could complain, or I could be kvetchy about it, but in reality, each of those problems was something that I created, right? So comedy of errors, but even today when I went to the DMV to change the title on the car, now that we're in Maryland, somewhere in the move I've lost the title. So I probably could have bought a new title right while I was there, but I thought, okay, if it's not here, maybe I still have it there at home. So I scheduled another appointment for tomorrow, and I'll go back and I'll try again tomorrow. But no, it wasn't here. I didn't find it. I'm going to have
You
to
put
buy
it
it.
in a safe place, Judy.
Yeah, really.
Uh-oh.
I have to get another one. The
Yeah.
other
Don't worry, it will turn up as soon as you buy the new title.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. So again, I could choose to be frustrated at how ridiculous this comedy of errors is, but on the other hand, that doesn't create a pleasant feeling. So I have to turn around and laugh at myself and say, okay, it is what it is, right? We go on with it. The other thing that's farcical, but it's the reality, right?
Yeah.
I can't get a driver's license in Maryland yet
And why is that?
because my social security number and my IRS number are all associated with David Grossman.
Oh,
I've been going by David Grossman for 45 years. It's on my passport, for goodness sake. On my licenses for the past 40 years. But Maryland caught the difference and said, nope. So I have to go make $165, make a legal name change, and get that changed with the IRS so that I can now get a driver's license here.
we have a very similar situation with Judy, because when I became a citizen, I decided to drop my umlauts, which were of course transcribed UE, and I've got 2 of them. So for me, they changed it. Okay. For her, no, they didn't for some reason. Social Security.
But they told me they had.
Yeah.
And so I went by it until I needed a Social Security, until I needed it for Medicaid care. And they said, this isn't you. Sorry, no. So now I have a different spelling of my name than my husband does.
Yeah. Last name, that is.
And one of our children also, we sent in the birth certificates to have their names changed. It worked with 3 of them. The 4th one it didn't. So he had a 4th.
We had a 4 in bed. There's positivity.
Yep.
So
when
again,
people ask us if we suffer from insanity, we say no, we enjoy it.
part of my daily favor.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's what it comes down to, is that we can choose to laugh or cry. Why not laugh?
Yeah.
It is what it is, and
Trying doesn't change it.
exactly. I
Well-
drove around downtown Baltimore trying to find a parking spot, and I
Uh-oh.
thought, you know what? I'm just gonna take the first parking lot, and whatever it costs, it costs. You know, let it be what it is. And thank God it was only $5. You know, but you know, it
But
could.
you at least had a choice of one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the
So-
name, is the name change going to affect, how do I put it? Is your name change going to affect
Everything.
your relationship, which nobody wants to admit, with the IRS?
Oh, you go.
No, my name and the IRS will take either one. It looks at my social security number.
Exactly. And so I was told
It
that
doesn't matter.
when I do the legal name change with Social Security, it will update in the IRS files within 72 hours.
Okay.
We hope.
They
Um,
don't
but-
care about mine. They've never updated it.
But I was gonna say, they never cared about the money coming in, so I don't know.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
My
wait,
em- in a variety of my employers have been doing one or the other. So you know,
But that's
this has
the
been
funny
going on
part.
for a while.
That the funny part is that mine has been dubbed for 45 years. It's on my
Yeah.
passport. It's on every driver's
Uh-huh.
license.
Yeah. Yep.
Go figure,
Nuts.
right? But again, it's a choice we make if we're gonna get frustrated or we're gonna go and laugh and enjoy the odyssey of it, and you know, and move forward with that. So, so when I talk about sharing good news, right? I could tell you how horrific today was and how many things I went to get done that got stymied, but I didn't worry about them and I didn't get stymied. And in fact, I was just grateful that I'm officially retired and could do that, because had this been one of those days where like I'm supposed to be working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday and I was trying to get these things done today,
Hmm.
that could have been really, really frustrating. But thank God, you know, it didn't happen until now, and now I can have the time to go ahead and take care of it. So
So you
it's
know,
okay.
you know what you have to look forward to, don't you?
Go ahead.
You, well, if these changes were meant to happen today, they would have happened today, but they weren't meant to happen today. That means something more exciting is going to happen tomorrow. So,
Now we got something to worry about.
And I got to visit 3 courthouses today to find the right one.
Look at the knowledge you gained.
I've been to 3 courthouses and I've checked out their security measures coming in.
Check out the security measures. Should be enjoying the architecture of the old courthouses.
There you go.
hey, you could sign up for a second profession. You can lead guided tours.
But I think that's the thing, is that when we can share the stories of the day in a positive light, or even share some of the you know, the other positive stories along the way. You know, for all the years that my wife and I have lived in places where you could barely get kosher food, and you know, even in Chicago, there's a couple of restaurants and a couple of options. We're in Baltimore now, and there's a lot of options, and it's amazing to me. I mean, even the food trucks. There's even kosher food trucks here.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, Judy, we're not going to move.
So
No, we
today-
have none.
This time, you know, yes, there's been like 18 months of transitioning to our new location between Morristown to Tampa and to here, and of course, you know, they started renovations on the kitchen now here, so that's going to be another 2 weeks without a kitchen, 2-3 weeks without a kitchen. But it's not a problem to go and get something to eat here. You know, for one of the
What a
first times in
luxury.
our lives, this is
What a
easy.
luxury. I have to remember to thaw it out from my freezer because I get it all frozen.
Well, and the other advantage to this point of life is that I'm actually peanut butter and jelly and a glass of milk for lunch is fine. That's
I like the milk, but not the peanut butter.
I could do
Again,
the
this-
peanut butter, but nothing with it. Don't mess my peanut
I
butter
like
up.
peanuts, but not peanut butter.
I saw a sign the other day, a little meme that said, I wonder who was the first to mix peanut butter and chocolate. I'd like to hug them. Again, so we're talking about focusing on positive things to share, not sharing the negative activities of the day, but sharing the positive things of the day. I know with one of with our kids, we always used to say when they come back from something, we'd ask them, you know, tell me 3 good things. They want to talk about all the negative because people want to, you know, work it out, right? But they want to share all the negative. But we trained them. I'll listen to the negative. I'll hear you all out, but I want to hear 3 positive things that happen first. So we trained them in this process, right? And I remember one of my sons in his training, his military training, got rolled back. And he was devastated. And the only reason he was rolled back was because there was only 27 spots going forward and they had 35 people finishing. They had to roll some back. Why him? It mattered.
Some luck.
So when he called me, he talked for half an hour. He talked about all the good things that might come from it, all the positive things he'll see in the future, and I'm sure it's going to be good and it's all going to be fine. It just takes time. And he said all these positive things, and then he was quiet. And I said, how are you going to mourn your loss? That's when he burst out into tears. Because there is a loss, you know. You went
Yeah, of course.
the whole class, and you worked your tails off together, and there's the camaraderie, and then they're going to go on without you. So of course it sucks.
Yeah.
Of course it hurts. But he was trained to think about the positives first. But then, yeah, you do still have to, still have to mourn the loss.
Yeah, you know, it's nice to be young and not appreciate the quality downtime of training.
Yeah. So, and that's in the public sense, but it's also in the personal sense, right? So many of us have negative self-talk that either tapes that we picked up when growing up or ones that we've created ourselves. You know, when I was calling home today and telling my wife that I actually got to the appointment, and when I checked in, I clicked the wrong check-in. So I actually checked in for an appointment last week. So I sat there for half an hour and I was doing my learning stuff, right? But I had a 10:15 appointment. They're now doing all the 10:30 and 10:45 appointments. I finally decided to get up and say something. And it turns out I clicked the wrong button. I checked in from the appointment last week, and now this appointment's already gone. So they rescheduled me for 2:30 this afternoon. I came back, got to that appointment, and of course, and then found out I didn't have the title to the car. So in my head, doofus, you know, when I called my wife to tell her what happened, and I called her husband a doofus, she reprimanded me. Because again, we do the self-negative talk, and it's not productive. It's not helpful. And in halakha, the Rebbe also talks about, you know, you're not allowed to talk bad about somebody else, but you're also not allowed to talk bad about yourself, not even in your own head. So we have to retrain ourselves to focus on the positive, not just the things we share with other people, but even in our head talk, we have to be able to focus on changing those tapes to positive things and finding the positive things about, all those pieces. I did go through a very rough day, and I acknowledge the fact that it wasn't really rough because I didn't take it hard. I was calm and I did not get upset. And so, 20 years ago, I can imagine that would have been a really rough day. Today, it was fine. And with the advent of cell phones, and all the things that are not just on the phone, but all the other things that you have on your phone, I was able to do my Tanya learning, my Komish learning for the day, my Maimonides learning. There was I still got a lot of things done. No time was actually wasted. Even the time in the car, I was able to listen to tapes. So,
What's a tape?
well, whatever they call them these days.
Yeah.
The things I brought up on my phone, right?
I still call them tapes.
Yes,
Your
exactly.
eyesight must be more forgiving than mine because I do have a phone. It's a pretty big one, but reading on this phone, I mean, I have a library, there's a huge library on the phone, on my devices, I should say. But on the phone, my eyes would say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I have to do this.
Yeah.
You can adjust your fonts, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it easy to read when you have one letter on a screen.
Yeah.
Also
You got
true.
a point there. Yeah, yeah.
One of the other things that we talk about here about, again, creating that positivity bias, creating the persona, making that a part of our life, is praising effusively. And it never hurts. It never hurts. I went through a lot of security doors today, and I had to empty my pockets and take off my belt.
Oh, yeah.
And yet I was pleasant and had nice conversations with each of the people at the security. And it made the whole exchange pleasant, repetitive, but pleasant.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too. And by doing so, you're a good what do you call it, ambassador of the Jewish people, because one Jew says I'm a rabbi, or at least a observant Jew. Probably, so I mean that's good. They have nothing but good opinions of us. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Right. Kiddush Hashem, sanctifying God's name.
Yep.
Right. But there's always this opportunity, there's always an
Yes.
opportunity to say, I have this funny thing where, I don't even know the proper name for them, but the braids, the long braids in African American hair.
Cornrows.
Yeah, when you make those, you know how many
Yeah.
hours?
Yeah, I know.
Hours?
Hours
So,
and
like,
hours.
when I see a beautiful head of hair that's done with all of those things, I'm thinking that's 7-8 hours.
Yeah.
And I typically will comment, I said, it's beautiful, like just your patience astounds me, because it does. I have not paid for a haircut in 45 years.
I can see why.
I have shears. When it's time, I go in the bathroom, I shear it all off, and I go take a shower, and we're done. I haven't paid for a haircut in 45 years. When I think of the patience of someone who's sitting there with all of those braids,
Vanity.
it may be vanity, but at the same time,
Still a work of art.
it is a work of art. It is.
You should do that with your beard.
Oh, you go. He looks like
I have grandkids who try. Don't worry.
But it's got to be done in a Jewish style. You need to do like 600 and how many knots is it?
113.
613 knots. Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
that or
But I think when we take the opportunity, and my mom and I have a joke about this, but neither of us can get out of the grocery store line without making a new friend.
yeah,
Rudy,
we have similar problems. Especially when it comes
Not
to
a problem, it's a blessing.
I know.
It's a
I know.
blessing.
I used to be too shy to do that. I learned not to be.
But that's it. It's an opportunity to make people smile and to get
Yep.
to know people, and it's always makes for a more pleasant day, and
Yes, it does.
you can always find something complimentary to say. You know, it makes for a better world, and again, that's focusing on creating the environment that we're a part of, right?
Yeah.
The Rebbe also talked about the Chabad shluchim that go out to all places all over the world, and he talks about a chassid machzas aviva, that a single chassid in a community already changes the environment. It's going to bring positivity and acts of goodness and kindness to the environment just by even a single chassid being there. How much more so a whole family? It changes the environment. So that's part of our focus is being able to do that. And focusing on
Did the
Go ahead.
world of good in our community.
world of good.
When Chabad came into town, yes, that brought a lot of positivity on in all aspects.
Yes.
Wow.
After the original misgivings, let me put it that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, that, you know, people are afraid of change, but then
Yeah.
when you find that it's good, it's always a beautiful thing. You know, it's so easy. One of the things that Ebba talks about focusing on the present is, yes, lots of negative things have happened, and we can focus on those, but we can also get lost in those.
Oh,
What about the present
What's
things
some
that are going
background
on?
on this? I don't remember any. I was on Desert Storm, so I don't remember any riots in Crown Heights, 91.
Yeah, 91. It was national news for a week or so. It all began. It's you know, in the inner city, in the summer, in the heat and the humidity. It's an environment that's ripe with trouble. And there was a visiting Australian person who turned a corner too hard and actually killed a kid.
Yeah.
And yeah, riots.
Car accident started it.
Yep,
Car
yep.
accident started it. Yeah, but it was a clash between the African American community and the Hasidic community that were there, and I did hear I did see a comedian today. I think he's Indian, from India, and he said he starts off the monologue saying, you know, you white people, you're not even good at bigotry. You're not even good at that. And then he goes on to talk about all the hatred within the Asian communities of one after another. And he says, and that's the hairy Asians. Now let's talk about the bald Asians. But it was so funny because it was like, you know, here we get all the trash about, you know, the white supremacists, and it's like, you don't have a market on this.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we could focus on the positive side of things, right, that gives us an opportunity to say, you know, the improvements that are being made, the good things that are happening, there are actually a lot more positive things happening, but we don't hear about them. They're not on the news, right?
Yep.
But we've never lived in a time that was as good as this. And yet you still hear people bemoaning, right? What is the country music? Dolly Parton has a song about, you know, people have been saying this is the end since the world began.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, couldn't we just start living in the days we've got? It's never been better.
Yep.
And it's true, but
It is true.
we move to choose what we focus on. Are we going to focus on, you know, the thorn bush has roses, or the rose bush has thorns? Where are you putting your focus, right? It's a beautiful world. It's a beautiful world, and wonderful, phenomenal things are happening. We need to see them, and we need to see those more than we see the rest of the stuff. And by focusing on that and talking about those and sharing those, visualizing all the goodness, it brings it out more, and it makes it an easier day.
But we also have to look at the rest of the stuff, otherwise we can't change anything.
We have to acknowledge it and see it. We're not talking about rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
But because of the way the media works and the way people tend to complain, you
Oh, I
don't
know.
hear the good.
I focus, let me put it this way. I recall Spiro Agnew. Remember Spiro Agnew about the nattering nabobs of negativism? Oh,
Yeah.
what a phrase. What a phrase. The nattering nabobs of negativism.
Yeah, I remember that phrase.
Agnew.
Yeah, yeah. So the good is there. We just have to focus on it and give it at least equal time, if not more.
Yeah.
At least equal time, right? And there's also this idea of choosing, I think it was Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talked about you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. Choose them wisely.
Yep, for sure.
So Perkiavos has the same thing about choosing a good neighbor, right? Because they have a tremendous amount of influence. So by choosing the neighbors, choosing who you're being influenced by, then we can choose to be positive. And, yes, there's times when we get relationships with the people who have a very negative attitude, and we get caught up in, sometimes it's kind of funny to be caught up in some of that stupid comments and stuff, like your mama wears army boots and stuff like that. but at the same time, if we choose not to, then we're choosing to make a focus on the more positive things and good things. So, choose the positive friends, choose the people who are going to bring you up, that are going to make you think a little bit broader, think a little wider, go deeper. Those are the friends you want to have that are going to cause you to grow and not stagnate. That's the main thing. And as we say, if you do what you love, you'll love what you do, right? And that's always a good advice. Finding something you can be good at and enjoy doing, and if you can find something that you've got a God-given talent for, and you can work on making it even better and more talent in that area, then it's a tremendous blessing. And to be able to work in those fields, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. One of the big advantages of our move here has been being so close to so many grandkids. My wife doesn't have downtime anymore.
Yeah.
The last 5 years, I've been trying to rope her into the business to get her help with some of the things for Institute Jewish Chaplaincy, and it's always been a challenge to rope her in. But now she has no time. She's got these little munchkins running all calling for Bubby, and
Yeah.
and then there's this beautiful thing when you're able to go and pick up some pieces for your daughter, and all of a sudden she gets a break in the day, and it's just marvelous. So yeah. So I lost my wife to the kids again. But it's beautiful because it smiles all around. So that's love what you do. Find time to spend the time on things you love doing.
Well, look at the positive side of that. If she is so involved with the grandkids now, there's no time left for her to nag you.
There you go.
See?
No nag time. And then another piece here that he talks about is he says lose yourself, right? And again, we've talked about that so many times, was that when the focus is on ourselves, there's all the things that need improvements, right? But if we spend our time not on us, but becoming more other-centered, if we focus that I am a created by God in his image to do something in this world. I'm an emissary of God here in this world. and throughout the whole universe, all these things going on, and yet God wants my time and attention on these things he called mitzvahs. We have this unique, special relationship. And if we focus on that, God doesn't make junk. I'm here for a reason. There's something I'm supposed to be doing. And now take that energy and focus on helping other people. There's always someone less fortunate. There's always someone who's having a worse day than I am. There's always someone else I can lift. And when we start focusing on the relationship we have with God and the opportunity we have to help others, it's always going to be better. It's always going to be a better day, right? So those are the areas where we can say, focus our time and energy to choose and to actively have a positivity bias, actively choose to have positivity bias. And those are good examples of it. On a personal list, when we talk about, in the life coach area, right? So there's a list here of some things we can do, writing exercises, thinking exercises, create a daily gratitude list. We've talked about that before. My wife and I, it was a year that we had at the dinner table, there was always this idea, and that's part of why we taught the kids to come up with at least 3 things, right? At the dinner table, let's say 3, everyone goes around, say 3 things that went well today. Say things you're happy about today. 3 things that you're grateful about today. And initially, people want to cop out and say, nothing bad happened. That,
Yeah, well,
right? But with time and practice, we go deeper. We go deeper. We start thinking about little things that we're actually grateful for, and expanding our gratitude, and it raises the awareness. So, starting a gratitude list, or even a chat with somebody as a battle buddy, a wingman, to be your to share off of gratitudes for the day, posting them. We've done this on the family chat as well. Start posting some gratitudes, and take turns posting gratitudes, and it really lifts everyone up. So listing gratitudes, identifying and consciously reframing negative tapes in the head, being aware of them and consciously making an effort to change them. My wife is the master at this. I don't know anyone who's worked so hard on this one, and she really has, and she's done a magnificent job, so much so that it is carried on to our kids. And so our kids have a lot of positive tapes, and they've learned to create their own positive self-talk tapes. So powerful thing. Number 3 on the list here is identify people you resent and reframe your view of them.
impossible.
Identify people you what?
In one case, it is utterly, totally impossible. And that man should be grateful every day that he's still breathing air.
Maybe that's gratitude, right?
He abused my daughter.
Jeff, what I'm talking about is reframing someone that we resent, right? So if we think back on a boss that was a pain in the neck that we had to deal with, right? So taking that person in your mind and reframing what that's all about, right? So sometimes the reframing is, for me, one of the easiest ways of reframing is trying to understand where they come from. And when you see that someone's coming from a world of hurt and a world of pain, and then why are they such a narcissist? Okay, well, from where their background is, I get it, right? So it's easier to forgive them, right? Sometimes it's more about not that person, but my relationship with that person. You know, I don't need to resent that. I don't need to feel bad about that one. I can find the good things about that relationship that were worth having, and I can let go of the rest. I can choose to reframe it or let it go. But to actively pursue making those lists and thinking those through. And you know, in the model of the hero's journey, there's always going to be the villain of the story who, not that we're going to forgive them or even reframe anything positive about them, but we can reframe our life through that lens in the sense that this jerk caused me to grow up in these other ways, caused me to be a better person in these other ways. You know, the villain took me through these challenges and now I'm a stronger person because of it. And so we can thank God for that aspect of it, even though
So
they
let,
should.
let me see this. I'm gonna reframe Haman. So if it wasn't
Yeah.
for Haman, I would have probably never tried Hamantash.
True. No, that's positivity bias.
the whole Megillus Esther was written. We have a whole annual
Oh, that's
holiday.
right. We have a whole story of our people.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
No, what's that?
Stories are what bind us.
Every
Yes.
Jewish holiday, they tried to kill us. We're still here. We won, so now let's eat.
Yeah.
So that's reframing, right?
Yeah.
But to
Oh,
be able
yeah.
to do that on a personal note as well, to be able to look at that one, right? Then there's also an activity of listing 3 people, positive qualities of 3 people in your life. Taking 3 people that you choose, and what are their positive qualities, and actually write them down, because when doing this exercise, number one, we're aware of those things that we want to emulate. We have more gratitude for the person that gave us those things. And so we, you know, those are all things that we can do that if we'll take the time to write down the positive qualities of 3 people in our life, it makes our life better. And of course, I always love that one about the job interview that, and I won't go through the whole thing, but basically they were describing, oh, you won't get paid. No, it's 365 days a year, and you'll be expected to, you know, clean up messes from everybody else and get no gratitude. And like, you know, and people hear this description and I was like, what, are you crazy? No one would do that. Well, your mother did.
Oh, yeah.
And so reframing the gratitude for people in our lives that have done some amazing things for us, and you know, the opportunity to have gratitude for it, the opportunity to emulate that, to do something in their memory, all good, positive things, right? And then take a time in our lives to think back and actually maybe write this down or think about this, quietly meditate on the idea of a really heavy setback that we've suffered in the course of our life. But what were the positive outcomes that eventually came from it? The challenges we had to overcome. God tested Abraham 10 times and he grew, and the world saw his growth, and the world got better because of it. So to sit back and look at some of the hardest times of our lives and see the catalyst that was for our growth and acknowledge the springboard of the challenge, right?
Yeah, I don't mean to stop you on this, but okay, I know the story of Isaac. That's testing once. What are the other 9 times?
Oh, now you're going to test me if I can come up with all 9 of them. So,
Or just a couple that I don't remember.
Algebra and
you
calculus.
do remember them, because they'll be, first of all, realizing at a very young age that there's one God on his own, you know,
Ah, okay.
right? Acknowledging the concept of one God. Then there's being tested on that by being thrown into the fires of Ur-Kasdim by King Nimrod when he refused to bow down to King Nimrod, right? And then going down to Egypt and the whole test with his wife being taken away and being returned to him, right? There's a famine in the land. Does he complain? No, he doesn't complain. He just goes down to Egypt to write it out. You know, so there's all these, but the 10th test is the binding of Isaac. That's the big one, right? But there's all these other tests, the wells that he made that got stuffed up and the conflicts with, all of these different challenges. But then
Okay, I
also,
never thought of it as tests. Okay, I see what
yeah,
I see
10
what you're
tests, Avram. And then, and Jacob, I mean, good heavens, all the things that he went through and how yet each one of those were a springboard to something greater. And then Joseph, who celebrated
Right.
in the midst of the difficult. Like he didn't even wait to see the results and then celebrate. He celebrated in the beginning. Right? He maintained this positive attitude that it's great. Your brothers are throwing you in a pit. Don't throw me in here. Don't throw. Well, I guess it's good somehow for you. Celebrating the difficulties in the midst of the difficulties. That's Joseph's tremendous success and lesson for us, right? Another option is to sit down and make a list of your 5 highest values. What are the things that are important to us? And by sitting down and thinking about those things, they strengthen our values, and positivity can be one of them, to be thinking through that through. Redeeming unresolved issues from the past. In other words, going back through our past and finding all the times that we're still holding against us, the things we still hold against ourselves, and learning to be able to have that conversation with us and let it go. And again, I can't think of a more overwhelming example than Edith Eger in her book called The Choice.
Mhm.
And it took her a lifetime, but when she eventually did go back to Auschwitz, and she did stand at the gate, and she reflected back on when Mengele asked her, "Is this your mother or your sister?" And she honestly said, "My mother." And her mother was then sent to the gas chamber. She held that against herself. You sent your mother to the gas chamber. Why didn't you say that's your sister? Why didn't you lie? Why didn't you? She held that against herself for 40-something years. But she eventually got back to Auschwitz, stood there on that station, and forgave herself. I was 17. I answered honestly. What else could I do? But we still hold so many things against ourselves. Reflect back and redeem ourselves from those things. The things that we regret doing, wish we hadn't done, and accept that this was a growing stage and we're better now. Right? And then also go back and revisit the silver linings and all the different things that were difficult things, but on the other hand, there was some silver lining to them, right? I still reflect back on, we had a really heavy storm here in Baltimore this past week. Winds howling and I didn't know if this is normal for Baltimore, but I found that no, that was really unusual heavy winds, and a lot of damage was done throughout the city. And but I reflected back on how we used to measure storms in Chicago was by the number of kids that ended up in my bed. It was a mild 1 or 2 kids came and cuddled in with daddy during the middle of the night, right? But you knew it was a doozy when there was 8 kids in the bed.
The Sound of Music, yeah.
Yes, the Sound of Music.
Yep.
Raindrops and roses and whiskers on kittens, round copper kettles and warm woolen mittens.
Yeah. I get where you're coming from.
Remembering the silver linings, right? And then one of the hardest ones of all is that to approach loss with positive gain.
That is hard.
Whatever the loss, to find not only the silver lining, but to turn around and do good to replace the negative. This has been a hallmark of the Rebbe's approach to every disaster that hit. All of the terrorist attacks, the Rebbe response to those things was more Torah, more mitzvahs, build a bigger community, bring more people into the community, do more mitzvahs, add more light. Whatever darkness strikes, to respond with goodness and kindness and light. That does not mean to forgive the perpetrators. It does not mean to not bring them to court and seek justice, but it means that more important even than that is to bring in more light, bring in more goodness and kindness. And that's the biggest and hardest ones. And and it's hard. It's very hard to do. And one has to find the simple ways to do it also, not to grab, not to take on these big hachlotas, these big commitments to do massive changes. No, small, sincere, beautiful changes. They change the world. They change the world. There's a comedian. There's an Israeli comedian who's been making some tours in America. And comedians are horrible at knowing, when they've crossed the line of decency. They don't know until they pass it that they've gone too far. This guy's response to October 7th, he's gone on these tours to with comedy show how ludicrous the anti-Semitic comments are.
Yeah.
How absolutely insane they are. But the way he presents it's hysterical. I mean, I was just listening to one other one. He talks about you calling us colonizers. Have you looked at a map?
Yeah.
Israel's this tiny. You have to zoom out to find it. And even when you zoom out, the word Israel doesn't even fit on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So he attacks the ludicrousy of anti-Semitism. He attacks it with humor. And sometimes it's really horrific, but it still cracks me up.
Mhm.
So yeah, so again, to be conscious of, and there is a Christian idea of turn the other cheek. That is not a Jewish idea.
Nope.
That is not a
Absolutely
Jewish concept.
Nope.
No, we do not do that. When someone does something bad, they have to pay the price, and the
Yep.
price has to be enough to make sure they don't ever do it again. But at the same time, we also have to do more Torah and mitzvahs, add more light to the world, and don't take ourselves too seriously.
That is important. The latter point.
We have to be able to laugh and enjoy life that we're given,
Yeah.
and do the utmost that we can with it.
If you can't laugh at yourself, you don't have the right to laugh at others.
So as we wrap up this course, I'm going to turn off the mic, the recording in just a second, but I would ask you, we've spent months going through all the different chapters in this book of one piece of positivity after another for how many? 30-something chapters? 30 chapters. If there was one thing that you could say as a takeaway from the work we've done together, what would it leave you with? What do you take away from over a year of thinking about positivity as a proactive effort.
Well, I think for me, one of the most important things is that I enjoyed the company of you reprobates. I really do. I really do. And I hope we can keep something going. So, because if you can't keep going, I would miss you all.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that.
Oh yeah.
We'll continue, yes. But about the concept of positivity bias.
A lot easier to study positivity bias than it is to study Tanya.
Tanya demands of us.
Yeah.
It demands of us. Yes, this is more gentle nudging in the good ways. Yeah, yeah.
I'm I'm having some trouble with that nomenclature because, as you probably know, I run a bar. Okay, after my illustrious career as an analytical chemist, and one of the least favorite bartenders we have is called Tanya.
Oh,
I rest my case.
I got you. Tanya, the word Tanya is Aramaic for we learned in a brisa. And it
Mhm.
begins the whole conversation about what it means to be a Bainani. So it's actually a quote from the brisa. The word Tanya means as we learned in a brisa. So it's an Aramaic word. But positivity.
Well, I'm her best defender at the post because she does have her positive attributes, and I do recognize them, and I appreciate them. Let me put it this way: I'm not quite as harsh as some of the other people.
So a class in positivity has helped to find positive things
Oh,
in
absolutely, absolutely.
challenging people.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
recognize more often when we are positive, and I think Judy and I very instinctively have that capacity.
And so the conscientious ever gets to tune it. Yeah.
Well, if for nothing else, the Rebbe, he had gone through some pretty rough experiences before he became. And there's a guy that had a very positive mental attitude, and all these stories, you can say to yourself, it helps you develop help me develop a better positive mental attitude
Yep.
and maybe more enjoyment from life. And that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Stan, you unmuted. You're up.
Who's up?
I said, Stan, you're up. You unmuted.
Yeah. I just wanted to respond to your question. So there are lots that could be said, obviously, and there's a major theme. It's pretty simple through the book, but the one thing, or one of the many things that I would take away from it is, gave me a much better understanding of you and your attitude. You always have been so smart. You have a big smile, always happy, and every lesson was just one more unfolding of your personality, of why you are the way you are, and how you reflect not only your own personality, but the personality of a culture, of a way of life. And this is just kind of the book, and every chapter is kind of a little bit more of an explanation of what I'm seeing in front of me.
You won't find many Chabad police officers playing bad cop, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well said. That's what I was getting at. Thank you.